And one of my favorite people to talk about this is next on our agenda. Now, he may have fallen out earlier when Gene Nickel called him his hero. So I hope Patrick has gotten himself up off the floor and cooled himself down so that he can speak with us today. But at the center of so many community engagement efforts over the last many years here in High Point has been Dr. Patrick Harman. We're going to turn the program over to Patrick and our partner in this work, Resilience High Point, to hear about what they have been working on and how they've been engaged and the deep roots of compassion that are driving their work forward. Patrick.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate all that. Good morning, everybody. So, can y'all see that?
Yep, we got it. And
okay.
Just for everyone else, the Jamboard just got reposted in the chat as a reminder. As Patrick's talking, he's going to inspire you for good ideas and action steps.
All right, thanks, Joe. So I'm Patrick Harman. I'm the director of the Hayden Harman Foundation. We've been working in Core City neighborhoods for over a decade now. Started growing High Point a few years ago. And now Resilience High Point is something we started a couple of years ago when I learned from my children about adverse childhood experiences and toxic stress. Hector kind of talked about it, that the body remembers, right? And so that impacts your physical health and your mental health. And so I called together some nonprofit leaders a few years ago and showed them a documentary called Resilience about the science behind adverse childhood experiences. And asked them to have a conversation because I felt we needed to do something about this. If we're working with folks who are having difficulties, then we should do something about it. And so that's how Resilience High Point came about, because we really want to encourage folks to get together. We've heard it a million times a day, that collaboration is where it happens. And Resilience High Point is fundamentally about collaborating so we can help everybody not to thrive, right? We just don't want people to survive. We want people to thrive here in our community. And that's what Resilience High Point is all about. And so we do that through building common experiences through a number of different ways, because we want shared values sort of move our community forward and to make it a much better place for everybody in High Point. And so some of the things we're working on right now are enabling people to access resources. I heard a lot this morning. There, as everybody knows, there's lots of resources in the community, but there's hardly any of us knows kind of all the resources that are available. And so we've just recently launched a website that has a lot of the resources that people can tap into. I'll show you that in a minute. And bringing people together through convenings and trainings. We've been doing that since the beginning. And compassion, Gene mentioned this and Joe mentioned this, we launched back in November to really try to get people engaged in the community. Oops, I skipped ahead. So on our website, resilienchp.org, there's a listing of community resources that we compiled that serve High Point, a number of different categories and subcategories, so you can refine this search. And what we've done, as much as we could, is try to summarize everybody's programs so that if you're a community member or your social worker helping a family, you can find out if that resource is really something that fits your current need. So this is the YWCA, their after school program. And so if you have a child that does not go to these schools, then you'll know you'll need to find a different after school program. And if it is, looks like a good fit for you, then you can either call them and go to the website and find out more information. So there's about 300 resources currently in the database that all have this kind of short summary to kind of help folks navigate which resources may fit the need better. And so convenings and trainings, we've been doing community resilience model trainings, because you can actually learn how to sort of get yourself back into what they call the resilient zone through different strategies. And you can teach other people how to get in the resilient zone through these strategies that sort of direct your body to remember in a different way. There's healing involved in that. And that was just happened this week. And then our convenings have tackled a number of different issues. But as Curtis mentioned, we've done a few on upstream thinking to try to get people to think about how they can solve the problem systemically rather than just pulling people out of the river. We want to go up the river and find out what's going on. So these convenings are happening 3 or 4 times a year, and then the CRIM trainings are happening a couple of times a year. So this Compassionate High Point is something that was a follow-on. We partnered with the High Point Library for the community read last summer. Some of you guys may have participated in the Trust First book. And this is something that's been on my mind and heart for a long time, is we have a serious empathy deficit in this country. And if we don't do something about addressing this deficit, we're going to go to a very dark place. So this needs to be reflected in our interactions with our neighbors, people we probably don't even like, and particularly our policies that's been talked about a lot today. If we don't have empathy and compassion in our policies, we're just not going to be in a good place in our country. And so this is the charter that Gene mentioned. And we launched this at the parade back in November. There's 6 points to it. And it's really an act of intention that we want people to sort of commit to learning about their neighbors and trying to understand their community better and be more active in finding solutions to address some of the problems that are confronting our community. And you can actually sign the charter at compassionatehighpoint.org. There's a digital signature that you can do. So we can build a movement. That's what we're trying to do in High Point around compassion and engagement. So we have a couple of strategies we're going to be utilizing to hopefully build a compassionate High Point. First of these is conversation cafes. It's sort of like focus groups, but you do a deeper dive on a topic. And so we'll be launching these this year. And we really want to find out, if you're a stranger and you come visit High Point 5 years from now, you spend a couple of weeks, how would you know that High Point was compassionate? What would you see? What would you notice? And so the ideas that come out of these conversation cafes, hopefully we'll be able to implement them, and others will be able to implement some of the ideas that come out of these cafes. And then beyond compassion, we can use conversation cafes to tackle some of these other issues like poverty that we're talking about today. We're also going to be showing screenings. There's a documentary called The Antidote about regular folks getting involved in the community and making a difference. So we've licensed this movie, this show multiple times. So if you want to see this, have us show this to your group, please let me know. The first screening is going to be February 26th in Macedonia at 2 o'clock. So hopefully you can come out to see that. All right, so what's next for Resilience High Point? A couple of big things. All right, we heard it all day this morning, right? If you're going to address poverty, you have to address policy. Right, we had the recent child tax credit that just expired, right? But when it was in existence, it lifted 3 million kids out of poverty. And that's a big deal, right? That's significant. That's more than any of us could ever do in terms of addressing poverty through policy. And so, but we need to really get on our A game with policy change. And so a lot of folks in the nonprofit field are kind of scared of lobbying and advocacy because they're worried that they're going to get in trouble with the IRS, or they might irritate some donors, which still may happen. But lobbying is a very narrow form of advocacy. And so we're going to sort of explain more about the details of lobbying and advocacy for nonprofits. Our next convening, which will be sometime in March. So be looking on the lookout for that information. We really need to get people engaged because we know more about some of the issues than our politicians do, because we work on these issues every day. The other reminder about advocacy and lobbying is this a long game. It's not something you tackle in a couple of years. I was part of an effort, really led an effort now in Metz County to get a fixed route system, and that took 8 years. So you got to be in there for the long haul. It's not something that's done overnight. And of course, there's countervailing forces as well. If you're doing this, some people are against what you're trying to do. Here's an editorial that was against the bus service in Alamance County. Of course, if they're talking about you, you're probably making some progress and changing some minds. So this has been mentioned a couple of times in the chat. It's a concept we've been approaching the city and the county. At the former police station, most of you guys know the police station has moved. And so the old police station is in the core city of High Point. It's also right next to Moorhead Recreation Center. And so we're proposing a community-based center addressing healthy food access, health services, job skills, and agribusiness development, and also youth development. So the major partners will be the Foundation, Growing High Point, and Resilience High Point. And the source of the funds are the American Rescue Plan funds. The city is getting close to $23 million, and the county is getting $100 million. So we're asking for some support for this comprehensive center to be right in the core city of High Point. Just a quick run through of some of the areas we're looking at. with Growing High Point, the creation of a model farm, a shared use kitchen, and then agribusiness development out of that. And we're looking at paid apprenticeships for youth and also other folks to learn about farming. And these, of course, these skills are applicable to things beyond farming. As most of you guys know, High Point University has a number of health science programs. And so I've been meeting with them about bringing some of these services to the bridge at the old police station. So this physical therapy, they talk often a lot. Somebody will go through the 10 or 15 sessions and they'll get at-home exercises, and they really fail to do them. And so the bridge will provide an opportunity for them to do some of these exercises. And then we'll have just general group activities with yoga and fitness, and then walking clubs with the more athletic fields. Social isolation has been mentioned a couple of times as well, and we want to combat that through these walking clubs. And this is a physician assistant program. Been meeting with those folks a number of times about initially just having some of the PA faculty volunteering a few nights a month, but eventually having a physician assistant, a supervising physician to see actually hundreds of patients a month, and in workshops on nutrition and health and that sort of thing as well. And then the pharmacy services, they have a program called Stewardship, which really helps people understand Medicare, getting them signed up, and also medication management is a lot of work they do, so they'll be part of that as well. And the support for youth, been talking with a lot of youth serving organizations about programming they can do out at Moorhead Recreation Center, the field's next to that, and also at the old police station as well, to do a lot of things that were talked about earlier. And then community outreach is a big part of the work that needs to be done. It's a big part of the effort of the foundation the last 10 years, is really reaching out to people, going door to door and building relationships that way. And so there'll be some staff to do this outreach and navigation. Because ideally, in my head, people come to the bridge, I don't know where else to go. I'm gonna go to the bridge, I heard about the saying, and they get sort of get navigated to the resources that will serve them, even if they're not there for the food per se, or the health services, or the youth, but there's other services that are in High Point they get directed to. So navigation will be a big part of that as well. All right, so we just talked about lobbying and advocacy. So I've been talking to city council and county folks the past few months, and I need y'all's help to push this forward. So I encourage you guys to contact the city council and county commissioners and their managers, maybe as letters of support to the newspaper to voice your support, because it's a lot of competition out for these dollars, and I'd appreciate your support to make this bridge happen, which could sort of have huge impacts in the communities we've been talking about all morning. Here's my contact information. So if you want me to come speak to your group about compassion, or show the documentary, or you want to have a conversation cafe with your church group or whomever, or to talk about the bridge, I'm available. There's my contact information. Hopefully I can see you guys outside of Zoom and we can make some of these things happen. So Emily, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you.